So that was an interesting little bit of scientific research that turned up an interesting result. Another thing they did was they had what they call unselected groups. In other words, the students there, they weren't handpicked for being good at psychic ability. They just trooped everybody in the room, regardless of what talent they had or what talent they didn't, and had everybody do the same test. They did do a survey beforehand to find out whether they were skeptical or whether they were psi friendly, and a few other things, so that they could break that data out when they looked at the tests. And what they found was really interesting. The people who believed in psychic ability exceeded chance in hits, and the people who disbelieved in psychic ability exceeded chance in missing.
Oh, that is amazing.
And this is what we call the mirror worlds effect, because in order to miss more than chance, the people who are skeptical have to, at some level, know where the hit is and where the miss is.
My word.
So they psychically know what the answer is, but they don't want to believe in psychic ability, so they're getting the answer wrong. This is the really fascinating takeaway from this research. Now,
amazing.
They also have, friendliness versus unfriendliness also produce the same thing, where you'd get a bump of people who exceeded chance if they were friendly, and they would be less than chance if they were, or they would exceed chance in missing if they were unfriendly. And there were some other ones too. And what it was showing, and this is the really interesting part, is through research, they're showing that your mindset is creating your reality. Now, we already knew this, but it's really interesting to actually see it play out in a scientific experiment.
Wow, yes. Oh, yes.
And that's something that you look at that, and then you can start expanding on this and going, well, if they're missing psychically in a test, what else are they missing on?
Yeah.
Having a negative frame of mind will narrow the choices that you can see.
Amazing.
Isn't it?
Totally amazing. No soup for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we sort of think that, though, don't we? I mean, there's some people who have a wonderfully positive attitude, and somehow things break right for them all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that happens to me a lot in some areas of my life. For example, I tend to attract really good clients in my construction business. And that has a lot to do with the fact that I'm honest, very, very honest, friendly, and competent. And I have that energy about me. And what happens is that I get clients who are just the same way. And so we find each other, and then everybody's happy.
And there are some people whose lives, they just can't catch a break. They, no matter what, they just
and if you listen to them talk, you can tell why.
Yeah.
They're pessimistic. I have a friend like that.
Yeah.
Negative about a whole bunch of stuff. And even when you tell him, you can't, you can always tell a skeptic, but you can't tell him much, right?
Yeah, that's true. How true that is.
He's open to this kind of stuff, but for example, first of all, we've been friends since forever. And so we all went through this period where everybody was around the time when we could buy houses. I know that this generation, this is a completely different experience, but I'm old enough that this was a thing, especially in the Bay Area. And so everybody was getting in the position to buy houses. and he wouldn't listen to anybody. He thought the housing market was going to tank, and the rest of us were going, "You're insane."
Yeah.
He wouldn't listen, and he's in a less than ideal situation when it comes to housing. He does own, but it's the difference between what a couple of us have been able to achieve and him, it's like night and day. And he had more money than us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it is true. I mean, people's attitude so much has determined their position in life, what they've been able to do. And you're right. The kinds of clients that they attract and how they work with their clients, their attitude toward working with their clients has hugely determined their success with them. I see that all the time. And I guess I've always known it was true, but you've really proven it there. And it's so much or your friend has. But it took 18 years to do it. How soon was he getting results like this?
Immediately, but it did take him some time to, so Russell, he would do a project every semester, or maybe not even every semester. Sometimes, it would take, they do a lot of prep, and then they get an experiment done in 1 year. And then one of his students would do a master's thesis out of it. And then another one would come in another year. And some years nothing happened. It's just the way things played out for him. Just the things had to line up for experimental results. So, and in addition to that, this was stuff that he did after hours. This wasn't in class, so he'd have to, finish teaching classes, rush out, grab something to eat, maybe run to the bank so that he could get money to hand out during an experiment, go back to the college, run this experiment for the next 3 hours or whatever it took, then go home and then do it next Wednesday, right?
Right.
So this, he couldn't do a lot at a time. This kind of thing, when you have to do it in addition to your regular work, it takes a toll on you.
But did it always turn out pretty much the same, or was it sometimes not remarkable and sometimes quite remarkable?
So this is the thing about parapsychology research that's kind of weird, and I had quite a few conversations with them about that. So with psychic ability, nobody is ever going to have a perfectly reliable experiment that works all the time with everybody. Not going to happen. But one of the weird things about it is that you will do this, you'll do an experiment, and maybe you were looking over here for this thing, but you were also, you also had some other parameters, but this other parameter here that you weren't focused on, this one, everything went wild. So maybe he was focused on friendliness and stuff on this one, but the skeptic versus the believer over here completely, completely turned into an amazing result. And this happens to everybody.
Right.
And it's not just, we barely made it over the threshold of success. This would be like, like 5,000 to 1 or something. So you couldn't chalk that up to what they call p-hacking. Are you familiar with that term?
No.
Okay. So in psychology experiments, and especially, but also in parapsychology, there's the possibility of what they call data mining. And that is that you go through all of your results looking for a place where you had statistically significant results, but you have so much data in there that you can possibly get a statistically significant result by chance. It's just how chance works. You'll sometimes, through complete chance, have a result that looks statistically significant. So if your cutoff is 20-1 and you run 20 different experiments, well, you're going to hit that 20-1, right? And so this is something that you have to watch for. But if you're running all of those different avenues, but the result is huge, and then you do it again, and then the result is huge, but it was someplace else, and then you do it again, and the result was huge, but it's someplace else. That's an actual effect. That's not just screwing around with the data. I know it's a little complicated. It's statistics, but it all makes sense. It's like if you're testing 20 jelly beans for whether they make you feel good, and you have odds of 20-1 that you're looking for, and you do 20 jelly beans, one of them's going to make you feel good by chance. Does that make sense?
It will make you feel good because you happen to love jelly beans.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that was probably not the greatest example.
But all right, so this turns out to actually, although, oh my goodness, 18 years, what a long time to be doing something. And,
I know.
But no, is he publishing all of this, or he's had his students publish?
His students did master's theses, which were not formally published, but they did go through a strong review process within the university. So Russell was not the only ones to look at them. There were several staff members within the university, including somebody who, was excellent statistically, and a couple of people who had absolutely no interest in parapsychology at all. And all these people got together and they looked at these master theses to approve them. So they did get review, but not a formal review like you would get when you're publishing in a journal.
Well, he's very generous to be sharing the wealth this way with the students. Good for him.
Yeah, well, it works out for everybody because they have they get their master thesis done, and now they have a master's in psychology. So win-win.
Yeah, win-win for everybody. Good for him.
So one of the things that he found from the research was that psi missing is actually easier to obtain than psi hitting. So it's easier to get people to miss than to hit.
And it's apparently just as statistically significant if they miss or if they hit.
If you set up the experiment that way, yes. So one of the things about this research is if you get a big group of people that are unselected in any way and have them all do the same experiment, if you put all of the results just together in a pot, you're not going to get you're going to get a result that doesn't show anything. And the reason is that everybody's canceling each other out.
Wow.
So what he was showing in these experiments is that you have to, if you tease the results out so that you find out who's going to miss and who's going to hit, then you can show in the data that you have a very strong psi effect because you have these people hitting and these people missing in the same for the same thing. So believer, non-believer, friendly, unfriendly, that sort of thing.
Right.
And then you look at how possible is it by chance that you would get this result? And the difference between the two, when you ask that question, how likely is it to get this result where you have people on one end hitting and people on the other end missing, then that's how you get your real statistical significance.
So that's the fact that you have that significance is significant in itself.
Right. The fact that you've got this one group hitting and this other group missing.
Right.
That in itself is significant.
Good. Okay. Well, that's reassuring.
Yeah, because you're not going to get that result by chance.
Yeah. Okay. That itself makes me feel better. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like you to talk to the people